Let's see. Hello, Lenon. I have one question. You know the star seeds? If yes, what do you think of the star seeds? I've heard about this. Um, Check out my book, Deep in the Garden of Consciousness. I have it available in PDF form. Also have it as a direct download. Also have it in hard copy form. Many of us are spiritual understandings are based upon a relational model that is turned upside down. See, that's why relationships are so important. Because when I talk about relationships and the importance of relationships, this also means your relationship to the cosmos itself. I mean, how many of us think about that? What is my relationship to the cosmos? See, it's hard to think about your relationship to the cosmos if you're worrying about FEMA death camps or reptilian shapeshifters. It's very difficult. Or worrying about the latest fear-based mind control program, H1N1, or worrying about heart, or worrying about population reduction. It's hard to think about what's your relationship to the cosmos itself. The relational model that many of us have been given is that we are on this spiritual quest as a human being to find spirituality. But as I outline in my book, that relational model is not the most empowering one. And from my personal spiritual understanding, it's also an incorrect one. Even, real quickly here, when people talk about things like UFOs, it's interesting because UFO, and I know this is a little bit about, I'll tie this back to this topic. I just want to use this as an example. When people talk about UFOs, it's always about something out there somewhere that is like, oh wow, look at that, it's out there, it's coming from space, or it's coming from out there somewhere in the ethers. And so the relational model is always as identifying exclusively as a biological entity that lives on this earth that is always looking external. See, again, this is the same thing we talked about earlier. For some of us, the externalization is the Illuminati. For some of us, the externalization is Freemasons. Some of us, the externalization is the government that's trying to hurt you somehow. Well, the same thing applies on a, you got the macro level, you got the micro level. The same thing applies on a greater level as it relates to the biological entity itself and how it perceives that which is out there, the externalization. And part of what I have spoken about inside my book, and I've spoken about it in terms of my spiritual understanding, is that the orientation that we take is always, for many of us, it's based upon the biological entity's experience, as opposed to realizing that you are much more than just a biological entity, that you also have a spiritual component that is married to this biological entity. When you realize the spiritual component, then you can embrace your full power and recognize that it's not a relational model wherein you perceive spirituality to be something external of you. You perceive yourself to be spirituality itself, and that the human being is something that is external of you, and that you are spiritualizing the human being by disciplining it, by refining its thoughts, refining its words, and refining its actions. Does this make sense? So when we talk about concepts like star seeds or extraterrestrials or whatever the case may be, just realize that ultimately you are greater than all of that. And the essence of what you are is extraterrestrial in the first place. So why be so mesmerized by these concepts when those concepts are closer to what you are in the first place? See, this is the difference in terms of the manner in which we think about the relational model, that what is my relationship to the cosmos? And it's hard to get to that point when we're fixated on these external projections here on Earth, like Illuminati and Freemasonry and reptilian shapeshifters and governmental power structures, etc. It's hard to even begin to conceptualize that. But when we get beyond that, and see, as Azuri had asked earlier, this is when we have that commitment to the spiritualization, our spiritual progressions. When we get beyond that, we realize that there's a greater reality that can be embraced. And that greater reality functions as a greater mechanism of empowering not just you and not just me, but the human species itself. And so that's why this transition from the previous work to what I'm doing now is so important, because it's honoring my own progressions and my own understanding as it relates to my relationship to the cosmos itself.